Hello and welcome to the second video in our series for absolute beginner cross stitchers. In this video, we are going to go over basic stitching, how to pick colors, how to do your stitching, how to make it look nice, etc. So and if you missed the first video was talking about the canvas, the features of the canvas, the pattern, the kit. If you haven't watched that or you don't know that information, go back to that. You'll see our canvas has a dotted appearance. That's Aida cloth. And for demonstration purposes, I'm going to draw out a small section of Aida. So as I explained earlier, cross stitch is called cross stitch because each stitch on your picture is going to be in a cross pattern. And you can see what that looks like here. Each one is a little X. In order to accomplish that, you use this grid to guide where you're going to put your stitches. So if you're doing a cross stitch here, you're going to do one stitch diagonally this way and one stitch diagonally that way. And then you're going to do that again and again. One stitch diagonally this way and one diagonally that way. One diagonally this way, one diagonally that way. So that is the basic pattern of cross stitch. Some things that will make this look better is if all of the bottom stitches go in one direction and all of the top stitches go in another. If you have the top stitch going off in various directions, it's fine. The world will continue turning, but it's not going to look quite as neat to the eye. So before you even begin, decide which way you are going to lay all of your bottom stitches. I always start my bottom stitch pointing towards the bottom right hand corner or the top left hand corner. So it's always like a backslash on the bottom and a forward slash on the top. A lot of people do it the other way though. Neither way is correct as long as the entire canvas is done in the same direction. Let's pick a really easy color to start with where there's a big section, and for that I'm going to choose this big blob of green. So as you can see on this canvas, the big blob of green has a number 18 in it, so that already tells us what number we're looking for. But if it didn't have that number 18 there, we could go to the legend here. Oh, this one's a little bit of a problem because you can see that there's two greens right beside each other that are very similar. So if you didn't already know that was 18, you could compare them like this. And you'll see, you can tell which one is the correct green, or you can go back to the pattern, which is not a bad idea in this case. We're going to pretend that that 18 isn't there. We can't tell which green it is. In this case, you could go back to the pattern and you'll see that big blob is all blue H. Go to the key on your pattern. Blue H is number 18. All right, so that's how you use the pattern. We're going to go to number 18. It's this lovely blue. And this is a 14 count pattern. So for 14 count, we are going to use 2 strands of this. And if you forget, it will tell you, it usually tells you right here, 2 strands. Of course, that's written in Chinese, so you might not know that. If you do ever forget or you're not sure, the back of this will tell you how many strands. Thread can be divided into 6 strands. 11 count uses 3 strands and 14 count uses 2 strands. Okay, so if you ever forget, you get a new kit, you can't remember, it will say on the instructions. I'm really sorry about that, the way my thumb looks. It's really, really dry in here. All right, so we're separating off 2 strands of this. Okay, and there's a few ways you can do it. You can do 1 strand at a time and just pull it out, or you can do the 2 strands and sort of unwind it like so. Okay, keep track of your strands, especially if you have animals. My cat Gretel one time ate some of my knitting and I had to take her into the emergency veterinary clinic. The string was caught in her stomach and it required a surgery that was $3,000 and extremely emotionally hard because we weren't even sure if she was going to live. So if your cats seem interested in these strands, please, for the sake of your sweet cat or dog, keep everything put away in the bags. Keep track of your strands. All right, that was my public service announcement for today. Okay, so you're going to thread your needle, which can be sometimes the hardest part of cross stitching. Okay, and I like to have quite a long double up tail. This is my single stitching area, just from here to here. All right, so to start the cross stitch, this is a really great way to do it. And this will keep the tail secure, and also you don't have to be farting around with the front and the back. So if you start a few stitches from where you are and you think about which way your stitch is going, start at the top a few stitches down. I'm going to start in this corner, but I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail out the top here. Then you want to make sure that you're going diagonally so that the thread in behind the canvas is going diagonally across these stitches, because when you do your stitches, you're going to secure down that thread in behind. All right, so you can see right now this thread is going from here to here, and now I'm going to start stitching this way and it's going to go across. So all of my stitches, I start from bottom right to top left, or vice versa. Whoops. All right, and with that first stitch, you can see that I've already stitched down from behind this tail that was going through. And if we flip it over, you can see there's the tail that's going through, and there is my stitch pinning it down. So as we keep on going across, it's going to pin it down even further. Okay, I'm going to start by just doing single crosses so that we can just get a few stitches done. This is the absolute easiest way, is to do one stitch at a time. And just make sure that you're not coming up through the same hole that you just went down. Let me see if I can zoom us in a little further. All right, so when you're going on to the next stitch, you want to make sure that you are not coming back up the hole that you just went down. When you move from stitch to stitch, sometimes you can do that. All right, so this is the very easiest method, as long as you are doing your stitches in the same direction. The bottom stitch and the top, whoops. Okay, you're gonna get used to, after a while, finding the hole on the back. That takes a little while to get that hand-eye coordination. Okay, hopefully the light is bright enough for you to see what we're doing here. All right, and then once you have that tail pinned down in the back by at least a few stitches, so you'll see I've got a few I've got a few stitches pinning down that tail. So now I am going to trim off the tail that was sticking out of the front, and you trim it nice and close to the canvas. I have usually a little jar that I keep these ends in. Okay, I'm going to show you when you have a block of color an easier way to do this. So if you have a long line of the same color, remember our bottom stitch is going from bottom right to top left, and we can do a whole row of these bottom stitches, and then we will come back and complete the top stitches after. If you are very concerned about how the back of your canvas looks, this type of stitch, I believe it's called like Dutch cross stitch or something, where you do a whole row in one direction and then go back in the other direction, is gonna make the back look really nice. You do this as much as you can, and I'll show you in a sec what it looks like. You can see the difference between my first 3 stitches, what they look like on the back, and what these ones look like, and you will be thoroughly impressed. All right, so I have completed that row. Remember the first 3 stitches, we just kind of went in any direction to get those down. And these last ones we did all in that Dutch stitch, all across and then all that way. And you'll see the ones where we went all the way across and back, you get sort of a neater, more uniform stitch, which is kind of nice. But then if you look at the back, okay, so in where we did the willy-nilly stitches, you can see it looks nice, but where we did the Dutch stitch, you have just these really nice up and down lines all the way across. It makes the back look really nice. So if you care about the back and you care about how uniform your stitches look at the front, doing it row by row is a nice way to do it. So I'm going to continue to stitch, and then we're going to talk about how to end off your thread when you run out of thread or you're finished with that color. And actually, you know what, in the interest of keeping this kind of still for you guys to watch, I am going to go ahead and put it on the hoop. If you find that your thread gets bunched up as you go through, sometimes it gets little knots in it, you can hold down the thread. For example, I'm trying to hold this steady for you, but if you kind of hold your finger there, it'll help you keep the thread nice and straight. And also in the back of the canvas, if you just hold your finger down on the thread at the back, I have a finger kind of touching that thread, it'll keep from bunching up back there. All right, so here we've got a knot because I did not hold my finger down underneath. Most knots at the back stop right away once you see the knot coming, and usually if you just tug a little bit, it will clear the knot very easily. All right, so you may notice I did something wrong here. This stitch I did in the wrong order. The top stitch I put this way. You might be able to see it looks just a little bit different than the other ones. Generally, if you mess up on like one stitch, it's not a big deal. What I'm actually gonna do, just because my thread is already right there, I'm going to do a second stitch over top in the right direction. I think that it's not going to cause enough bulk that you will notice. But yes, we all make mistakes. All right, even though we're not done with this color, I want to show you how to finish off a thread as though you were done. So let's pretend either I have a very short amount of thread left or I'm finished with this color, and I'll show you how to finish. So there are as many ways to finish as there are people who do cross stitch. But one of the easiest ways is to finish it from the back. And all you need to do is take a tail of thread and go under about 5 stitches. So we're just going under a row of about 5 stitches, and we'll pull it all the way through. This is where you might find like a thimble helpful if you need help pushing it through. And just be careful that it's nice and neat. Okay, pull it nice and tight, and then carefully snip off the tail, and you'll see it looks neat. The finishing looks neat, and even more important, it's nice and smooth so that you don't get a bunch of bulk. So realistically, yes, you could tie knots and start and stop your projects by tying knots, but it's going to create a lot of bulk and look really messy on the back. So the way that I've showed you how to start and how to finish leaves you with a nice, smooth looking front and back. All right, so in the next video, I think we'll do some time lapses of actually stitching on the project, and then we will learn special stitches. I'll see you then.